Welcome everybody back into our lecture number 10 of the microprocessors and microcontrollers subject. Today what we will be going to do is we will just have a very brief recap of what we have studied in our previous class. That was about the programming model, okay, and also the physical memory organization. Obviously the programming model earlier we have checked it out. Physical memory organization of 8086 is what we have seen in the earlier class. Now, after doing that small recap, we will be going into our next topic, that is signal description of 8086. So basically signal description means on that 40-pin 8086 IC, last time we have seen that 40-pin structure, each pin gives out or takes in some signal. So what exactly that pin is, what signal it takes it in or what signal it gives out, that is what we will be going to discuss. Anyhow, the whole signal description of 8086 will not be completed in the one lecture. So it will be divided into maybe 2 to 3 parts. So out of that, today we will be discussing first part of the signal description and why these parts and what specific signals will be discussed in each part of that one. You will see and understand as I show you the next slide. Okay, physical memory organization is what we have checked in our previous lecture. In that one, we have seen that the complete capacity of memory interfacing of 8086, that is 1 megabyte, it can be interfaced into 8086 system as physically they have to be at least 2 different chips, 2 different ICs of memories connected to the 8086 processor. Why so? We have seen that 8086 can process and work with the data which is of 16 bits in size, and at some times it may also can work with the data which is of 8-bit size. Because there are certain registers AL, AH and so on, the 8-bit registers of 8086 are there. They can handle the 8-bit data, and ALU can also perform 8-bit operations. Now, when it is want to access the whole 16-bit of data, 2 bytes, so that 2 bytes, one each will be located in the even bank and other one as the in an odd bank. We have seen it. And why it is so? Because of the address location numbers. Every alternating number is a even number and every alternating number is a odd number. So in that scenario, our 16 bits, that is 2 bytes of data, whenever it is there, 1 byte of that data will be in the even bank and another byte will be in the odd bank. So when you are using the BHE bar signal and A0 signal, BHE bar is bus high enable, that is it will decide whether the higher order of data bus D8 to D15 is enabled or not. Okay, whether there is a transaction of data over D8 to D15 lines of 8086 or not, this signal will tell. Okay, along with that one, A0, obviously as this one is the LSB bit of the address, LSB bit of any number can tell you whether that number is even or odd. So likewise we are using this A0 for making our indication whether we are accessing the even bank or not, because that one becomes a chip select for even bank. So that is how the operations go on. Either the 16-bit operation by having the both bytes from both the banks, 1 from each, or 8-bit operation. 8-bit operation again can be of 2 types. 8-bit operation of data. Operation of data means transaction of data. Transaction of data from even bank into the processor, from processor to the bank, or it can be the odd bank into the processor or processor to the odd bank. So these 3 possible operations would be there: 8-bit data exchange or 8-bit data exchange even, 8-bit data exchange odd, or 16-bit data exchange, or there will be no data transaction on the data bus. So earlier we have shown you one table where the combinations of BHE bar and A0 were helping us to understand that what type of data access is happening, whether 16-bit data type of access is there or 8-bit data type access is there. If it is 8-bit, then it is from even bank or from odd bank. That was also from that table, it was very clear. Now talking about the signal description of 8086, we can initiate this one by a particular categorization and the working modes of 8086. As if you remember, while discussing the features of 8086, we have talked about one particular thing, that 8086 can work in 2 different modes. One is the minimum mode of operation, other is a maximum mode of operation. Briefly, I'll tell you what is minimum mode and maximum mode. Again, elaborate we'll see as we progress. Minimum mode is a mode of operation of 8086 in which it behaves in a single processor system. That means its mode is that there is one computer, in that one CPU is there, and that CPU contains only one processor, that is 8086 single processor is there. Sometimes in a same computer, more than one processor also you may require for increasing the efficiency. That time your processor 8086 should be switched to the maximum mode. How to switch that one? Obviously we'll see how to switch between the minimum mode and maximum mode also. So minimum mode is a single processor system mode, and the maximum mode is a multi-processor system mode, where more than one processor can exist in a CPU at a moment of time for increasing the speed and efficiency, obviously. Now, depending upon these modes only, all 40 signals, 40 pins, what we have in on the 8086 dual inline package, they are categorized into 3 types. There are 3 types of signals totally. The first we call that one as minimum mode signals. Second are called as maximum mode signals, obviously, because the 8086 can be in a minimum mode or maximum mode. The third one into this one is a common mode signals. That means the signals or the pins which are common for both the modes. Okay, which are common for both the modes. Now, we will start our today's discussion by understanding the common mode signals, because they are more easier to understand than the other two, and more important also, as they are common in both the modes, they exist. So if they exist in both the modes, they have to be discussed first. They have to be given priority actually. We will discuss today the common mode signals. In our next parts of that one, we will discuss the minimum mode signals and maximum mode signals. So we'll start with the common mode signals. Now you have to understand why this categorization is there. This categorization of pins or signals of 8086 is into 3 parts due to the reason that 8086 can function in 2 different modes. It can function as a single processor mode, that is a minimum mode. It can function as a multi-processor mode, that is a maximum mode. So obviously, with respect to each mode, there are certain dedicated functions and signals of that mode. So minimum mode signals we call for minimum mode, and maximum mode signals we call it for maximum mode operation. And the common between these 2 modes, some pins, some signals will be common between these 2 modes that are called as common mode signals. So we will start our discussion today with the common mode signals. Talking about the common mode signals now, and starting with one particular thing, even that one we have seen in our previous class also. So if you have concentrated in the previous class while talking about the physical memory organization, I've asked you to focus upon certain things, that is address lines, data lines, and BHE bar signals specifically. Okay. Now, keeping that BHE bar signal aside for a while, and now concentrate upon the AD lines. There are total 20 address lines and 16 data lines. Now, 16 lines are common between the address and data bus. That means the same lines can function in dual different types of modes. They can function as the address bus, address lines, or they can function as the data bus, data lines. What are those signals? The ones which are highlighted in yellow here. So AD0 till AD14 here, and that pin number 39, AD15. So 15 here and 1 there, total 16. These lines are called as bidirectional address data lines. So they can carry address, they can carry data. AD0 to AD15, they are the common lines between the upper 16 bit of address bus and the complete data bus, because data bus size itself is a 16 bits. So complete data bus will be coming into here, and address bus which is of 20 bits, so 20 lines are there. Out of that 20, 16 lower lines of address bus, that is A0 till A15, are these particular lines, pin numbers 16 down to 2 and 39. Pin number 16 down to 2 and 39. So these 16 lines are called as bidirectional address and data bus. Now I was saying that one may question that how it is possible for this same line to function in duality. They can work as an address bus, they can carry address, they can carry data. How it is happening? Now it happens on the basis of time multiplexing technique. Time multiplexing, that means at a certain moment of time, that bus will either be address bus or it will be data bus, not simultaneously. So it is time multiplexed. At one instance of time, this bus will be acting as an address bus. So whatever content is there on these lines, that will be address. At another instance of time, whatever is there on these lines is a data. So that we can refer to as an data bus. Now, time multiplexing will happen. Okay, I hope you can understand the multiplexing concept, where multiple inputs can be given to a same device, but there for communication purpose, transmitting these inputs to the other side, multiplexer will do a selection of one input at a time and transmit that to the other side. So that is what happening here. There are two possibilities of functionalities given to this line. That is, that can be have address on it, or it can be also a data on it. Okay, for a certain moment of time, okay, a particular fixed amount of time will be there when these lines will be address lines, and another fixed predefined amount of time will be there when these lines will be data bus. So there will be no conflict, okay, and there is no request grant system here. So directly, specifically at the start of time, certain amount of time, it will be address, and after that one it will be data, and the cycle goes on continuously. Okay, so like this it will be there. And why it is done? Obviously to get the compactness into the architecture. Using the same lines for multiple purpose, it is very good, efficient resource management than having the same thing two times. Just imagine that the address line, data lines were separate. Here, now you can see in 20 lines, both address and data lines all are completed in 20 lines. Okay, out of that 20, 16 are shared between the address and data. If not, there would have been different address lines and data lines. We would have had 36 of them total. 20 address lines and 16 data lines. So 16 number of lines are saved here. Architecture, manufacturing cost, okay, everything is just saved, and efficiently the resources are managed and used it here. Okay, let us continue here. Hope as we would discuss this address data lines already, I hope we can easily understand it. So lower 16 bits of address bus, it is also the 16-bit data bus. After that one, another 4 bits of address bus are required. We are calling them as upper 4 bits of the address bus, that is address line 16, 17, 18 and 19. Starting at A0, ending at 19, so there are total 20 address lines. So those are these particular pin numbers, 38 down to 35, 38, 37, 36, 35 are the address lines 16, 17, 18, 19. Now, as the earlier lines, AD lines 0 to 15, they were time multiplexed, dual functions were assigned to them. Even these lines A16, 17, 18, 19 are time multiplexed, dual functionalities are assigned to them, but this time not with the data. Instead, some other buses, the status bus are there. The status bus bit number 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you will ask question that where is the status line 0, 1 and 2. Okay, and up till only 6 only, is there not any 7, 8, 9? So there are total 8 status lines are there, S0 to S7. Out of that 8 status lines, S3 to S6 are time multiplexed with A16 to A19. We will get to know where is that S0, S1, S2 also, and we can obviously see the next one is S7 already available. Pin number 34 is our BHE bar, which is time multiplexed with the MSB bit of the status line, that is S7. Okay, these are the higher order data bus which are time multiplexed with the status signals. Obviously, the next is bus high enable. The purpose and use of this particular line we have understood in our previous class, and this particular line is time multiplexed with the S7 bit of the status lines. S7 bit is the MSB bit of the status signals. MSB bit of status signals is time multiplexed with this BHE bar signal. Okay, and BHE bar is obviously what type of signal it is? It is an input signal or output signal. From the arrow you can check it out. This all individual pins from the arrows you can check it out whether they are input or output. Address need to be communicated only from the processor to the IO devices and memory. So outside, all the address lines alone, when you check it out, they will be pointing out. But the data transactions will be in both directions. The data can come in and the data can go out. So D lines, D0 to D15, they will be bidirectional. Obviously, as the address is multiplexed with them, all the lines that pin number 16 down to 2 and pin number 39, you can see they are bidirectional. Two directions are there, coming in and going out, because of the data can be transferred in both directions. But address need not to be transferred both directions, because address has to be given from the processor to that memory or IO devices. Only one way direction of the address communication will be there. So that is why when you check it out, these line numbers 38, 37, 36, 35, they are unidirectional. Even though they are time multiplexed with the status lines also are output indicators only. Status, they will show some status. Those signals which are status lines are also output only. They are not input, they are output to the processor. That is why the lines are coming out. Even this BHE bar, it is an output signal. Okay, this BHE bar is output signal. From this BHE bar, from the processor, this is going output to the chip select of the odd memory bank. Okay, we have seen earlier, odd memory bank chip select is connected to the BHE bar signal. So this BHE bar is output signal, and its functional obviously to whenever this is active, and because of that bar it is active when it is 0. Okay, it is active when it is 0. So to make this one active, you have to make this line as a 0. You will not make it, the processor will make it actually. So processor makes this line 0 and send out to select the particular memory, which is the odd bank of memory, to which your upper byte of data bus D8 to D15 is connected for the 1 byte of data communication from the processor to the memory, or to the processor from the memory, okay, from the odd bank of memory. This BHE bar is used. About the status lines, we will elaborately see all the status lines S0 to S7 together, okay, afterwards. Now, this particular pin number 33, is what it make the switch between our two types of modes. As I earlier said you that 8086 can work in minimum mode and also in the maximum mode. So this pin is responsible for that. So here this is an input pin. So we have to give, the programmer have to give an input to the processor that whether it has to work in minimum mode or it has to work in maximum mode. Okay. So if you are wishing that 8086 to work in minimum mode, this pin should be made high. Okay, this pin should be made high. That is 1. Logically 1. Voltage wise it will be 5 volts. That is the operating voltage of this is 0 to 5 volts. So 0 will be low, 5 will be high. Logic 1 is 5 volts and logic 0 is 0 volts. So when you make this input, give this input to the processor as 5 volts, the processor will function into the minimum mode. When you make this signal as low, if you take that signal, make it ground, connect a 0 volts to this particular input, that time the processor will go into the maximum mode. Okay, and what is there in minimum and maximum mode, that you can check it out later, and that is pin numbers, you can check it out 24 to 31. Pin numbers 24 to 31, they are having two set of functions assigned to them. Okay, on this immediate to the beside the block of IC, you can see here hold acknowledgement, WR, M/IO and all up till this INTA. So these signals are in minimum mode signals, minimum mode functions are there. Similarly, we are having another set of functions to these same pins. So 31 is having another function, that is RQ bar / GT0 till this pin number 24 QS1. So these another set of functions are there to this pin numbers 24 to 31. These are actually your maximum mode signals. Okay. So HOLD hold till INTA bar, they are the 24 to 31 pin numbers, minimum mode signals, and here QS1 to RQ bar GT0 are the maximum mode signals. What is the minimum mode? What is the maximum mode? Briefly, we have checked it out. What each pin or function or signal will do into this minimum mode and maximum mode, we shall see as we progress. Okay. So now currently you have to understand that pin number 33 is a common mode signal. Using this one, we can switch the mode of processor from minimum to maximum or maximum to minimum, because this pin is an input pin. Okay. Next is read signal. Read. Obviously, this pin, as you see, indicating outside. So it is an output pin. It will give an indication to all the connected peripherals of the processor that processor is currently reading data. Okay. The processor will read the data or the processor will write the data. Processor reads the data from memory and IO input devices and processor writes the data to the memory or output devices. Okay, reading means taking in the data, writing means giving out the data. So it is a type of indicating signal to all the connected peripherals that processor is currently reading the data from the memory or the input devices. Okay, now one question will arise here that there is a read signal here, where is the write signal? The write signal downwards in the 29 pin number, you can check it, but that we will not discuss in our today's class, because that comes under the minimum mode function, minimum mode signal. Okay, now another doubt can arise that write is only available in minimum mode, is it not available in maximum mode? It is there, but in some other way, some other indication is there. How it is there, we shall see while discussing the maximum mode in detail. So this particular pin, pin number 32, is the read pin. So it is an output pin. It indicates the peripheral of the processor system that processor is currently reading the data from memory and input devices or input devices. The next is this particular pin number 23. We'll skip this from 24 to 31 completely, because they are the mode specific pins, either minimum mode or maximum mode. Pin number 23 is a test pin. Now this particular pin, a complete understanding of this one, again we will get it when we are discussing the instruction set of 8086, because there is an involvement of one particular instruction of 8086 named as wait, WAIT, wait instruction is there. Now whenever you execute or write the wait instruction in a program, and whenever the program is being executed, on executing this particular instruction, the processor will go into an ideal state. An ideal state is one in which the processor does nothing. It will be just resting in ideal state. Now this pin is used for revoking the processor from the ideal state. So a type of sleeping, the processor will be sleeping. When you write a wait instruction and the instruction executes, the processor will go into a sleep thing, but actually I should not say sleep, it is an ideal mode, right? But now to revoke the processor back to the normal state, this pin is used. As you can see, this pin is the input. This pin will trigger the processor in such that the processors come back to the normal operation. It will come back from the ideal state. Okay, so this pin is a triggering for the processor to come back to the normal state from the ideal state. On how it will go into the ideal state? It goes into ideal state by executing one particular instruction named as WAIT. So when the processor execute that instruction, and when the processor will execute that one, if the programmer wants the processor to execute, if the programmer write intentionally this particular instruction into the program, and while execution of the program instructions, the processor will encounter this particular instruction and executes it. After it being executed, the processor goes into ideal state and remain there until we give an input from this particular pin. And here the input should be given as active low. Active low means logic 0 you have to provide on this pin such that the processor comes back to normal action. Okay, that is test pin. Next is ready. Now on a motherboard, a processor is interfaced with many other devices. Let us specifically talk about memory, because we have seen in the earlier class also that memory is physically connected externally to the processor. So when it is connected, the working speed, the speed of operations of processors are generally faster than the other devices on a computer. Other devices on a computer will be obviously your memory will be there, your inputs will be there, your outputs will be there, like keyboard, monitor, memory. Out of these all, processor's working speed is highest, and comparatively remaining all the other things are slower than processor. Now this ready pin is a type of acknowledgement provided into the processor by the other peripherals, specifically memory. Majority of the time memory will give an acknowledgement to the processor that my operation now has been completed. I was slow, but now my operation has been completed. The task of data exchange is completed. I have read the data completely, or I have written the data to the processor completely. Who tells it? The memory tells to the processor, because this pin is an input to the processor. So it's an indicator that, like suppose you are working somewhere, you and your friend are there. One of you are very fast. One among you are very fast. It will complete the task very fast, and just wait the other person to complete. So the processor will do that thing only. It is very fast. It generally completes its action and just wait for the other person. Here this is a memory such that it completes the task and indicate or trigger him that I have also completed the task. Okay. Suppose the processor is writing some data to the memory. The processor gives out the data out on the bus very fast because its operation is fast. But the memory can take that data in very slowly. So when that operation is going on, the data from processor to the memory, even though the processor has sent that suppose one set of data and ready to send the other set, the processor has to wait and get an acknowledgement from the memory that I have already read the first data, now you can send the other data. Before getting this acknowledgement, the processor should not send the next data, because as the memory has not completed the first task itself, it cannot continue the second task. If it is doing, it will override the first task. First task will not be properly completed. So this is an ready, again it's a type of triggering to the processor that slower devices are also have completed their work, such that the proper synchronization is maintained. Okay, and synchronization means following the equal time, same time, simultaneously. Every module of a system should work in synchronization with each other. Okay, synchronization means following the same time clock. Next is reset. So reset means we are resetting the whole processor basically. So everything what is there in the internal registers and ALU and everything will be cleared. Okay, to clear up everything, to make the processor go into an initial state. Like you have studied the state machines earlier in the digital system design. State machines can or anything, the flip-flops and everything also, there will be a reset button to make that state machine to go to the initial state. So basically this pin is here also for making the processor to go into its initial state, that is back to position where every register is containing 0. All the segments are washed up, no segment divisions are in such a way that there is some data. Everything will be cleared accordingly in the RAM and everything. RAM will be cleared, registers will be cleared, ALU will be cleared without any data. Okay. All the interrupts also whichever are there to the processor given, even that interrupts will be cleared, assuming that the interrupts have been serviced. Basically it will clear up everything, and the requirement is that continuously you have to give an high signal for 4 clock cycles. What are clock cycles? What is this clocking? Everything we will discuss as we progress. And you must also understand the sequential circuits as you have studied. Clock is a signal given into the clock inputs of all the flip-flops generally. So clock cycle is one on and one off cycle. Okay, so here you have to give the high signal on pin number 21 for 4 clock cycles. You have to give high and wait for 4 clock cycles, then only it will get a proper reset, otherwise it will not reset. Okay. Now we'll quickly move into the another signal into this one, that is clock. Obviously to make this one run we require a clock. Every sequential circuit requires a clock to function. On the clock's triggering only it will work. Flip-flops are the very good example of basic sequential units which are used in the sequential circuits, and they cannot function without a clock. So any integrated digital circuit which is a synchronous requires a clock. And here, as we have studied in the features of 8086 also, 8086 does not have any internal clocking circuitry. It cannot generate its own clock internally. You have to give an external clock at pin number 19 to the 8086 such that it can have a clock for working. Without clock, processor or this IC will not work. Okay. Next, this pin number 17 and 18. Okay, both together they are the external interrupts trigger to the processor. External interrupt trigger to the processor. That means if the processor is doing certain task, that time if you want to interrupt it, that you have some more urgent task which has to be serviced before the ongoing task, you just trigger the processor either at pin number 18 or pin number 19. About the interrupts, earlier I have given one analogy to you that suppose you are currently using one particular device, maybe a computer or a mobile phone borrowed by somebody, and you are listening my class right now. So that time, if that person from whom you borrowed comes and asks you to get the device back, it is a sort of interruption to your class, right? So interrupts again can be of two types: a normal interrupt request, which is called as maskable interrupt. This particular pin 18 is maskable interrupt input. Whereas sometimes, as I said the example, your friend from whom you brought the device comes and asks the device back. Those type of interrupts are non-maskable interrupt. You cannot ignore that particular interrupt. You have to give them back the device what they require at urgency, because the device is their own. Whereas another type of interrupt, suppose you are taking this class on the device and your sibling comes to you and asks for that same device to play some game. Obviously, we will not tolerate that. You will ignore his request or her request, stating that playing a game is not that much important than what you are doing right now, the task. So those type of interrupts are maskable interrupts, the one which the processor can ignore. Pin number 18 is a maskable interrupt, and pin number 17 is non-maskable interrupt. Okay. Also, another thing you have to notice here is that INTR request, the interrupt triggering should be done level triggering. About level triggering and edge triggering, you already understood that you have to make this signal logical level 0 or 1 according to what type of that signal is. If it is active high, you have to maintain high logic 1. If it is active low, you have to maintain that one logic 0. Okay, level continuously for a while. When the clock triggers it, that device, the interrupt will be taken into account. Similarly, when we see this non-maskable interrupt, it's an edge triggered type of input. Here it will get triggers when it is edge signal given at here. Edge signal or edge triggering is given at this pin number 17. And the requests given at this particular pin, the interrupt request given at this particular pin are not maskable. Maskable means, again I have told you earlier, maskable means the things which are ignorable, the option for ignoring that point. INTR is a general interrupt request, maskable it is. So depending upon the interrupt flag IF, you can enable or disable, or you can give the service or not give the service to that interrupt. Okay, the maskable ones. But when we talk about non-maskable interrupts, mandatorily you have to give the service to this particular type of interrupts. You cannot ignore this or disable this type of interrupts, basically. Okay. That is about this whole thing about the today's lecture, but little bit more I want to give you about the MN/MX pin number 33. So pin number 33 of our 8086 is MN/MX bar. So this pin makes the switch between the minimum and maximum mode. So what is minimum mode? What is maximum mode? It's just a brief definition, so we'll check it. So these set of signals here, you can check it out. Pin number 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24. 24 to 31 basically. Hold acknowledgement, they are called as write. Okay, M/IO bar means memory or IO devices. Okay, DT/R means data transmit or receive. DEN means data enable. ALE is address/enable. INTA is interrupt acknowledgement. What are them in detail? We will check it out later. These signals, how many are there? You can count them. 8 signals are there. These 8 signals are called as minimum mode signals. Okay, and minimum mode is one in which the processor does not associate with any other co-processor and works in a system where only one processor is there, standalone type of a processor system. Maximum mode system, whereas you will have these signals on the 24 to 31. Complete functionality what was previously there now will be shifted, and you will get these signals 24 to 31 as this QS1, QS0. You got this status lines here, S0, S1, S2. Then you got this lock signal here. Request grant signals are here. Okay, earlier we have seen S3, S4, S5, S6, S7 status signals. The other 3, 0, 1, 2 are available here. Okay, pin numbers here 26, 27, 28. Okay, so this is about the status lines, maximum mode signals. These are the functions of pin number 24 to 31 in maximum mode. Minimum mode and maximum mode operations can switch between the minimum mode and maximum mode by giving a particular signal at pin number 33. If you give logic 1 at this signal input, then that time your mode of operation will be minimum. If you give logic 0, it will be in maximum mode of operation. That is it. Thank you. Today we are done with this classes. We'll see you in the next lecture.